Hello everyone, I am Julian Morris with the Channel 5 News. In the headlines, 60 families in Castle Bruce closer to moving into new homes on the government's housing program. Dominica delisted from EU tax haven blacklist, and the Ministry of Education develops a critical post-natural disaster contingency plan. The details coming up.
Here are some tips to reduce mosquito presence in and around your home. Keep water storage containers properly covered. Remove containers that can collect water from your surroundings. Keep garbage bins tightly covered. Pick up your litter and remove all tires from your yard. Keep gutters free of leaves and twigs to prevent stagnant water. Prevent Zika, dengue, and chikungunya. Fight the bite. This is a public service announcement from the Dominica Red Cross.
This message is supported by Flow. First up in the news, 66 families in the Castle Bruce community are due to move into new apartments soon. Andrea Louis has a report.
This as the apartment complex in Castle Bruce nears completion. Hurricane Maria left thousands of Dominicans homeless, and the government committed to providing secure housing for those in need. Member of Parliament for the Castle Bruce constituency, Johnson Drago, says outside of the apartment block, secure houses have also been built for the people in the Castle Bruce community.
We will see the rapid completion of the 2 apartment buildings in Castle Bruce, which will house 66 families and can also be used as a hurricane shelter. The houses that we built, 10 houses that we built in Castle Bruce for the needy families, they've all been reconstructed, and the persons are in a more secure building in Castle Bruce.
Castle Bruce is not the only community in the constituency which is benefiting from an apartment complex. Construction on an apartment block for 66 families is also ongoing in Saint-Sauveur.
The Saint-Sauveur area is a heavily disaster-prone area. The topography is such that whenever it rains heavily, not even hurricane, we have landslides. We've seen the loss of lives. Quite a few of our families have perished during disasters in this area. And the government, in its wisdom, took a decision that the families here are not in a position to construct comfortable, resilient home. So the government took a decision to purchase land from a private owner and to construct proper housing for its people. So within a couple months, an additional 66 families will be housed here in Saint-Sauveur.
Through the efforts of government, the displaced families are being housed elsewhere until construction of the apartment building is complete.
The people themselves are very excited about the projects. Presently, government is renting apartments to accommodate families. Some families are living with relatives, some with their parents, some with their grandmothers and so on. So it has been tough. Maria was hard, and the stresses of Maria continues, but there is light in the tunnel. So we're very happy with what is happening.
The apartment building in Saint-Sauveur is expected to be completed by the peak of the 2019 hurricane season, which normally falls in September. As regards other housing developments in Saint-Sauveur, 10 wooden houses which were constructed for those who lost their homes during Tropical Storm Erika of 2015 had been destroyed during Hurricane Maria in 2017. However, government invested $1.5 million in reconstructing these houses in a climate-resilient fashion for those 10 families. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
And Bloomberg News is reporting that the European Union's corporate tax watchdog is removing Dominica from the EU's tax haven blacklist. According to a memo obtained by Bloomberg News on Monday, Dominica is to be taken off the EU's blacklist of non-cooperative jurisdictions for tax purposes. The decision by the EU follows Dominica's commitment to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's Multilateral Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance. Senior Counsel Anthony Astafan told DBS News Tuesday government had been exonerated. Back in October 2018, Senior Counsel told the radio station in St. Vincent the EU's blacklisting was an effort to victimize third world countries. Astafan said at the time this also highlighted the European Union's insistence that there be taxes levied against offshore banks. Back then, the OECD included Dominica on a list of 100 CBI programs, which the organization said posed a potential risk to the integrity of common reporting standards. Dominica was lumped in with Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Grenada, Montserrat, St. Lucia, and St. Kitts Nevis. And since its blacklisting, Dominica has amended a number of pieces of legislation in an attempt to get off that list. The Offshore Banking Act and the International Business Companies Act were amended. The act to provide for automatic exchange of financial account information was also passed in Parliament. The EU listing criteria are aligned with international standards and reflect the good governance standards that member states comply with themselves. These include transparency. The country should comply with international standards on automatic exchange of information and information exchange on request. It should also have ratified the OECD's multilateral convention on signed bilateral agreements with all member states to facilitate this information exchange. Until June 2019, the EU only required 2 out of 3 of the transparency criteria. After that, countries will have to meet all 3 transparency requirements to avoid being listed. Fair tax competition is another requirement. The country should not have harmful tax regimes which go against the principles of the EU's Code of Conduct or OECD's Forum on Harmful Tax Practices. Meantime, Senior Counsel Anthony Astafan has welcomed news of the EU's plan to take Dominica off the blacklist of uncooperative tax jurisdictions. In his comments to Channel 5 News on the matter on Tuesday, Senior Counsel Astafan said the decision represents the culmination of a lot of hard work by government.
The European Union's decision to remove Dominica from the blacklist is the right decision. It's a complete vindication for the Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the team that worked very hard with the Financial Secretary to get us removed from the list. And you will recall that we spoke of, and the Prime Minister and the others spoke of, legislation being passed in the House when the Leader of the Opposition was in the Parliament when the bills were being passed, prior to the decision to blacklist the country. And once the decision was made, there was huge celebration with the Leader of the Opposition and his political party. They went on a campaign of vilification that the Prime Minister was this, he was doing that, the government's reckless, the government's hopeless, and so on. And then a few weeks later, we find out the European Union has done the right thing, has made the right decision, has vindicated the people, the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica and its Prime Minister by removing Dominica from the list, because it has done everything that was required of it to do, which is what we were saying. There's a moral to this story. Any politician who hurriedly grabs on to any negative news to destroy and to try to destroy the credibility and the reputation of his government and his country is a politician that cannot be trusted, is a politician that is driven more by partisan appetite and greed than it is by policy, good governance, and the betterment of the people of this country. And I want to thank the Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the team, the Financial Secretary, the Ambassador, for working so very hard to protect the good name of this country. And now that we're off the blacklist, the joke is on them.
Shelter managers across the country to be equipped with shelter management manuals this hurricane season. Local Government Commissioner, who is also chairperson of the NEPO Emergency Shelter Subcommittee, Glenroy Toussaint, says the nation realizes the importance of shelter managers during times of disaster, and steps are continually being taken to strengthen the role of these individuals in disaster risk reduction.
We have a number of new shelter managers, by the way. And so we are providing as much training as possible to those shelter managers. We also had a training of trainers for shelter managers. So some of the persons who are the training of the trainers will be conducting most of the training of those shelter managers. And we believe that certainly is important. that we equip those persons who are going to do, because shelter management is a big thing. Too often we see shelter management, it's a major thing, it's a major part of disaster risk reduction. And so we have recognized the significance and importance of that aspect of disaster management. And so we put in a lot of emphasis on ensuring that we have the people who are going to man those shelters have the requisite knowledge and skills so to do.
Toussaint says a shelter management manual will be another useful tool.
We had a validation workshop looking at a shelter management manual with the help of the IOM, because we believe that in moving forward, we have to have something to guide the shelter managers or to guide shelter management in Dominica. So we will very shortly, that should be completed so that we can have a manual for the shelter managers as to what are the responsibilities, what are the responsibility of disaster management committees, what is the responsibility of the NIPO shelter subcommittee, what is the responsibility of ODM as far as disaster management is concerned, and other stakeholders in disaster risk reduction.
The Emergency Shelters Management Manual will be officially handed to the ODM on Thursday. You are watching Channel 5 News. We'll have more after this.
If you're HIV positive or have an STI, having unprotected sex with multiple partners puts them in grave danger. You'll expose every partner and their present and future partners to HIV or another STI. Use a condom every time you have sex. You can live a productive life even if diagnosed with HIV. Remember, early detection is key to your survival. Be responsible, protect yourself and others. Help stop the spread of HIV and other STIs.
Thank you for staying with us. The Ministry of Education is taking steps to develop a contingency plan to guide the way forward following the impact of natural disaster. Here again is Andrea Louis with a report.
The two-day workshop organized by the Ministry of Education in collaboration with IsraAid, UNICEF and the UNDP commenced on Tuesday. Chief Education Officer Melina Fontaine says the ministry has done a lot of work to ensure the schools have an emergency operations plan to follow in times of disasters. She pointed out that the same has not been done at the ministry level and it is time to address this matter.
Over the past year, since after Maria, we have done a lot of work at school level to the extent that all our schools have school emergency operation plans. And you're aware of them. And also that we've done a lot of capacity building within our schools, training our teachers, principals, staff, even our students in areas related to education in emergencies. But at the ministry level, headquarters level, we do not yet have our plan. I hope you realize that. And we cannot direct our schools without we having our own plan. And so we are at this point where we are going to begin to work on our plan so that in the next couple of weeks we will end up with something that we can use.
Fontaine says several stakeholders will be involved in the process to pave the way for a detailed contingency plan to be executed by the Ministry of Education.
With support from IsraAid, UNICEF and UNDP, we will be contracting a consultant to assist us with that process. So the framework, the outline, hopefully it is going to articulate, for example, management policies, standard operating procedures, resources to be activated in emergency situations, data collection and management, roles and responsibilities, the how-to of building resilience at both systemic and institutional levels, and other things that will come up.
The Chief Education Officer says once the ministry's plan is in place, further action will be taken to ensure it ties in nicely with the school's emergency operation plan.
So once that is done, we go back to the schools. We bring the schools back together with us, and we have to align their plans with our plans, because I'm sure they've worked very hard on their plans, but there are some things that may have been missing. There may be some gaps. We are going to be looking at that and get them to probably do a revision of their plans so that we are all in sync.
And Chairman of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, Dr. Timothy Harris, says he has no doubt that the views and concerns of small states will be well represented by St. Vincent and the Grenadines. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been elected to the United Nations Security Council. Dr. Harris says this is a victory for small states. Dr. Harris says the importance of multilateral fora being seen to cater for all nations is critical to their credibility. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, CARICOM's candidate, was elected to the non-permanent seat reserved for the group of Latin American and Caribbean states for the two-year term 2020-2021 with 185 votes of the 193 available. In so doing, it became the smallest state ever to be elected to the council. Dr. Harris said the challenges to international peace and security have become more complex and diverse. He also noted the adverse effects of climate change on small island nations.
Here are some tips to reduce mosquito presence in and around your home. Keep water storage containers properly covered. Remove containers that can collect water from your surroundings. Keep garbage bins tightly covered. Pick up your litter and remove all tires from your yard. Keep gutters free of leaves and twigs to prevent stagnant water. Prevent Zika, dengue, and chikungunya. Fight the bite. This is a public service announcement from the Dominica Red Cross.
This message is supported by Flow. To end the news, a look again at the headlines. 60 families in Castle Bruce closer to moving into new homes on the government's housing program. Dominica delisted from the EU tax haven blacklist, and the Ministry of Education develops critical post-natural disaster contingency plan. Feel free to contact us at news@marpin2k4.com. You may access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. Thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow.